Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Fishing with Timmy Turtle. We're down on Kingscliff Beach this morning. Was meant to go out with rod and chase some snapper on hard bodies. Apparently they've been hitting them, and even some long-tailed tuna, but didn't turn out that way. The swell's kind of like 2 to 3 foot, and we kind of need 1 to 2 foot to get the raft out there. And I didn't feel like losing 2 cameras this week, so I called it quits and thought I'd just come sit on the beach and talk you through what's been a pretty tough and expensive week for me. Just explain the whole process of, setting a goal of trying to catch a dream fish on the raft. My goal this winter was to catch a fish that head off one end, tail off the other end type of fish, either a big cobia or a big juice. Want to tick both of them off the list on the raft. And we've kind of been working at it over the winter. I think Rod and I have done about, how many videos we've done? We've done like 2-3 videos, so we must have done like 6 or 7 trips. It's very difficult to time it all. We only get really short windows of opportunity. It's got to be less than 10 km/h winds and half a metre of swell to even consider getting the raft off the beach. It's very challenging, and we know that we only get short windows of time, so we've got to make every effort kind of count towards trying to land a big fish. Last video I hooked something, and I don't think it was a monster. I did hook it on light gear, but the closer I'm getting to hooking a big fish, the more pumped and excited I am about kind of doing it. When Rod put up his video about the cobia, the weather had a bit of a break, immediately the next day, and I thought, let's do it. Let's get out there and chase one. We are heading out this morning back into the ocean. The swell and the wind have dropped off today. Going back out, we're throwing some big plastics. I've upgraded my gear. I'm like pretty pumped to get something big. We're hoping for like a cobia or a dewie or something like that. So big plastics. Let's hope the swell's kind to us and we can get off the beach here at Palmy. Let's get on the water. We decided to hit Palmy. Went out to the inner reef up where it jots up to about 8 metres. Rod normally live baits out there, but I'm more into my lure fishing. It's more about the challenge for me. I don't mind getting out there and getting no hits all day, but it's just the challenge of landing a big fish on a lure that's got me hooked on fishing. It's why I've been doing it so much over the last year. The trip started like any other. The night before, ring each other up. Rod, you ready? Yep. And yep. He's always keen. So whenever there's a break in the weather, we go nuts. Got a brand new setup for it. It was a 25 to 40 pound rod, 4,000 size reel, 30 pound braid, 40 pound leader. I'm more into my light line fishing, so to me that's a massive setup. That's something that should be able to stop anything. I'm learning that's not. I love my light line. I think when I started fishing, it was 3 pound straight fluorocarbon with 2.5 inch grubs and just really loose drag, and that was fishing to me. I love playing the fish, I love fighting the fish, and for me that's a massive setup. That's something that, if something grabs it, I'll just let it run, let it tow the raft. We should be sweet. But I do know that, once you get over that 1.10 metre in the Jewfish, that they start to be a bit more of a dirty fighter. My biggest fish to date is a 1.7 metre Jewie off the rocks down at Brunswick. 20 pound line, 20 pound leader, got absolutely freight trained 2 nights before I landed it and thought, what the hell happened there? So tried it again, didn't change anything, and then landed one the next night. And I think I was pretty lucky. I just played it really well and ended up running it down the rock wall to the boat ramp, and we ended up landing it.
What a monster Stan is! Oh, mate!
We're out of here first, Tim. We're out of here.
Yeah, that's definitely legal.
Oh, that's awesome.
See, prick.
Man, he hit it like a steam train. I was yelling out, bring the net, no. Yeah.
Big fish abs. Massive.
That's him.
That's him.
Yeah!
There you go.
Anyone else bar hit. Anyone.
Well done, bud. That's sick. Oh my god.
Monday.
Right. Bedtime. That's enough fishing for one day.
And that was my first real fish on a lure, a 1.7 metre Jewie. I was camping at the time. It was a camp trip I'll never forget. Ended up cutting it up and feeding the campground with it. $20 worth of chips and 20 kilos worth of Jewfish. It was a night that everyone enjoyed, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, so that's kind of my biggest fish, but landed just before I started the channel. It was like I'd landed about 4 flathead, 2 trevally and 6 brim before I'd landed that fish, and then that was my first one to really kick off the lure fishing. I was like, I'm hooked now. It was after watching a morning tide fishing video, you know, casting lures off the rocks. I thought, how hard can it be? I think I kind of fluked it. But the more I kind of get into fishing, I realized that, you know, a lot of things were going in my favor when I was fishing. So yeah, it's been a goal to land a massive fish on the raft. The head flopped off one side, the tail flopped off the other side, and for me, it was this winter that it was a cobia or a Jew that I was going to land. I got to the beach 10 minutes before Rod did, just because I'm more nervous about getting the raft out. He kind of glides out fairly easily on his boat. Got there, checked it out, thought it should be sweet. We got everything packed and in Rod's boat, and I thought, oh, I'm not going to turn the cameras on because it looked fairly easy. It was to some extent. We kind of waited for 3 or 4 waves, pushed it out. I jumped on, my nipples were still dry, and I thought, you beauty, we're out. And I got out past the break, and I thought, I'll wait for Rod, and I was adjusting my chest cam, and I don't know, I must have looked down for 10 or 15 seconds. By the time I looked back up again, I thought, oh, we're in a bit of trouble here. Wave was pretty much on top of me, and it's not like you can get the raft moving easily. It needs about 15 minutes and a cup of tea to get going. I bailed pretty quickly, and the wave ended up landing right on top of the camera. It actually snapped off at the L bend there's a plastic L bend. It's taken a bit of a battering before, and it must have just been getting weaker and older, and yeah, snapped. Jumped back on the raft, realized it was gone. There was another 2 waves coming in, so I just paddled another 10 or 15 meters to get the raft out past the waves, and then I thought I'll go back in for the camera, and Rod came out. I went in, swam around for a bit, realised that was fruitless because I couldn't see anything, so Rod paddled around for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then I ended up calling. I said, come on Rod, we you know, let's go out and catch a fish. I'd kind of already lost it in my mind, so I thought, oh no, just leave it. So yeah, after 10 or 15 minutes of paddling around, Rod called it quits. We thought we'd just take advantage of, you know, early morning fishing and then go back afterwards, knowing that it's probably gone already. So we paddled out, got out there. I pretty much locked down my drag. Since it was a new setup, it was fairly decent in my book, so I kind of put about 30 pound of drag on, I reckon, and I don't normally do that. I normally try and play the fish. I figured if I hooked up, I was just going to scull drag it out. That was, you know, I was getting it away from the structure, and then try and play the fish after that. So yeah, I put a lot more drag than I normally would on. I normally, you know, 1/3 of the lead is what's recommended. I kind of went, yeah, probably 2 or 3/3. No, you can't have 3/3, that's a hole. I kind of went, yeah, 2/3, 3/4 of the leader weight, and thought, you know, if I hook something, it's coming up, you know, we're getting it on the raft, this is it. So I was chucking a big 8-inch Zman soft plastic in Bubblegum, 1 ounce jig head, dropped it down, and I think we were jigging for about probably an hour 15 of jigging. You kind of jig for about 30-40 seconds, and then you drifted off the spot, so you've got to paddle back over to Rod. Rod marks it up on the sounder, and then drop again and jig again for 30 or 40 seconds, then paddle back. Rod was marking the bait up on the sounder. It was sitting on the bottom, so he's fairly confident in, you know, in a fish biting today. He normally live baits there, but there's no reason why they shouldn't hit a soft plastic, so that's why I was kind of giving it a go. You know, and Rod's positive. He always goes, yeah, there's no reason why they shouldn't. So, you know, Rod's always positive, upbeat, and gets right behind you. I paddled over to Rod, and it was probably the only time when he went, we're right on the mark here. This is it. We're smack bang on top of it. I pretty much threw my bait at his kayak and sunk the bait below his kayak, and probably jigged about, you know, probably 6 or 7 times, and then felt like I'd hooked the bottom, and then the bottom moved, and I thought, oh man, this is a fish. This is a good fish. Yeah, it's not clear. Yep, fish. Yep. Come on, up you come. Oh my goodness. Come on, up you go. Oh, far out! With having my drag so tight, I thought, you know, there's only one way to do this, and pressure's going to be on the line from the get-go, so if it touches something, it's all over Red Rover. So I was hooked in, and it's hard to tell, seeing as we only got the chest cam angle, but I got into it, didn't hold back at all, and this thing didn't move. It didn't take any line, but it didn't even feel bothered that it was hooked, and just thought I'll casually swim over to that part of the reef and just just bust him off. And it was actually just brutal, like hooking a fish. The thing didn't move. And that was probably the most upsetting thing, is it was losing that fish. You know, we got out there, I got the bite on something that would have been just a PB fish, absolute stonker of a fish, and couldn't budge it. I've probably watched that footage I don't know how many times, but it just shattered me. I've been pretty down all week about it, actually. Not about the camera, I couldn't care less, but that fish I really wanted on the raft. You know, my channel's based around you don't need $1 million boat to go out and catch a big fish, and I've probably lost about $1 million worth of lures. Definitely disappointing losing a fish that big and not even turning its head. The thing wasn't even bothered. So I'm kind of explaining this story. There's a bit of frustration at the end of that film, and just kind of explaining where that frustration comes from. There's a lot of effort that goes in behind the scenes, kind of get a 10-minute video up, but it comes so close to just a fish for myself was just a little bit heartbreaking. Just kind of wanted to explain the whole story, but it ended up to be a pretty quiet morning apart from that one hit. Now we've got to wait for another break in the weather and you know, do it all again. That's fishing, and I'm hoping that just makes the reward so much sweeter when we do eventually get it. To me, fishing's all about just working hard, persistence, and working for what you want. And that's what I try and put through in my videos. For me, the fish is nowhere near as rewarding or special, you know, as something that you go out and you figure it out for yourself. That's what I love about it. Talking to mates, scheming about what's going to work, what's not going to work. It's finding the biggest fish you can and working it out for yourself, and I guarantee you that'll be the fish that you remember for a lifetime. You know, I'm not giving up. Kind of thought I'd just go through and explain the process of trying to land a goldfish on the raft this winter, and it'll continue into summer. I've got some big summer goals. Hopefully they turn into some pretty rewarding videos. It's been a year since I started the channel, as of the end of August. So I want to say a big thank you for 12,500 subscribers and 1.3 million views. It's been a pretty awesome journey from someone who's never filmed or fished before the channel, and I'm glad you guys are enjoying the journey. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a big like and a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. Any comments, always welcome. Thanks guys. See you next episode.